Well, hello from the beautiful Northwest. It's a spring day and I'm sitting out in my garden. I'm Gretel. I have a little blog called From the Lost and Found, and I wanted to invite you into my backyard, into my garden, and into my life and my story. I think the greatest story that was ever told started in a garden, and that's where I want my story to begin too. The story of my life started 38 years ago in a little mountain neighborhood, a community in northern Idaho, right on the border of Montana. My parents had moved there to live off the land. They built a tiny cabin. They had no running water, no electricity. I remember walking to the outhouse, and I lived there until I was 5. And much of my identity and much of what I love about nature comes from my time there. My mom and dad had a huge acre garden, and I have memories of my mom giving me a little plot and letting me plant whatever I wanted, and I made a big soupy mess, but somehow things still grew from that. And that place is full of memories for me, but it's full of a lot of pain, and it's a part of my story that has a lot of loss, because my parents, that was the end of their story together, that place. They lost each other, and they lost the land, as we call it, or the property. And I find myself here in this little garden, and it is certainly not what I envision. Someday I hope to have an acre at least. I love to have my hands in the dirt. I love to work and be a part of the miracle that happens when you plant a little tiny seed and watch it grow. It's something that is almost magical. And I got that love from both of my parents. They both still have gardens, and they have learned to bloom where they're planted in unexpected places. And hopefully I can share more about them with you. But this is my little garden for the time being. Here's my little daughter. You can hear my boys playing in the background. This is a fixer-upper that we got 10 years ago, never expecting to still be here, and yet here we are. And I have longed for country living and a big farm, but that's not where I find myself. I find myself in a small city. I find myself with a yard that still needs a lot of love, a house that is looking beautiful on the inside from all my husband's hard work, but still needing a lot of TLC on the outside. We've had to pretty much gut this house and do everything to it to make it ready to someday hopefully sell. But for now, I'm trying to learn to plant, to bloom where I'm planted. And I decided that I would make a little garden for myself, even though I wasn't in ideal conditions. I hauled the block, I planted the seeds, and what you can see blooming behind me is just what was here from last year. It's exciting when things come back that you plant and tend, and then they just take off on their own. And this Speak Right Now challenge of 30 days of videos, really outside of my comfort zone. I consider myself, the language and the voice that I feel most comfortable with is writing. But it's been something that I've kept buried inside. And so the invitation from my darling sister-in-law, Season, thank you. It just felt like a good reason to stretch and grow in ways that I don't normally feel comfortable. And I think God can do things in us when we just say, okay, grow me in ways that I can't see yet. Show me how I can bloom in ways that I can't envision for myself. And one of my greatest fears is that I will get to the end of my life and God will say, what did you do with the talents? And I'll be one of those, like the good book, who just buried it away because I was afraid. And I feel like my writing and my voice are buried right now. And as I was driving home tonight thinking of this video, you know, God put a new idea in my head, and he said, you know what? How does anything in your garden grow? It has to get buried first. And so even these talents that I have buried, if I allow God to, I know that he can make something grow. And I don't know what it is yet. And it scares me sometimes because I want it to be a flourishing acre garden. And right now I might have uneven cinder block and lots of weeds, but it's a start. It's something. And so this is unedited, unscripted. It's shaky. I have an ancient dinosaur phone, but here I am. and I invite you along. This is my story and this is my voice, and I want to watch how God grows me, and I hope this encourages you in your story and in the tiny seeds that you may be planting and waiting to see what God does with. God bless.